channel. I'm back to break down this 7-game slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. Before we get into it, I do have a Patreon package over there on Patreon that I've been working on. You'll get access to things like hot hitters, StatCast data, team hitting data, bullpen data. So you can track the hottest hitters around the league, know the best teams as far as hitting stats, and then check out bullpens so you can target teams you're going to want to stack and then teams you probably don't want to play against the stronger bullpens. And then you'll get access to my pitcher data sheet, which is up on the screen behind me right now. And you can follow me over on Twitter at KJK_DFS. And with that being said, enough of the promo stuff. Let's start breaking down this slate today. So we have a 7-gamer, decent-sized slate, kind of a, medium-sized, but enough to where we're going to have some options and we're going to have to be a little more contrarian at times, just because with 7 games, you're not really dealing with like a, big 14-game slate. So we might want to figure out some sneaky stacks and some sneaky pitchers we're going to want to target. So as always, I'd like to go ahead and break down my sheet by K-rate. It's fantasy sports. We get points for strikeouts, and you'll see the leading guy on the slate is that in Casey Mize. I should point out that Casey Mize has only pitched 4.1 innings. He's a top prospect for the Tigers, though, and he's a kid that is expected to be, really dominant. So looking at his splits and stuff, he had a 38.5% against righties and a 28.6% against lefties. Once again, that's only 4 innings pitched, so, don't want to get too out of hand judging that data, but he is supposed to be the real deal, and he takes on a Chicago team where when looking at their team hitting data, I'll go ahead and give you guys a sneak peek of some of the stuff I have to offer over there on Patreon right here. When you look at the Cubbies stats, they actually have a 27.4% K rate as a team, and they strike out 29.1% of the time against righties, right-handed pitching. So that just really strengthens the appeal to play Mize today. A kid that has a lot of talent, and then when you look at the splits and the Cubby struggles in the strikeout category, that's really going to increase the appeal for Mize. And when looking at his price tag over on DraftKings today, you see he comes in at a 6.2K price tag. So that's just too cheap in my opinion. And it makes me have a lot of interest in him. I mean, you saw the numbers. I like to think I gave you some good reasoning, and then when you look at the price tag, that just makes me like him even more. So he's the first guy we have to point out, and then the next guy is the pitcher in that same game, in Alec Mills. Mills comes in at 7.8K on DraftKings, and he gets to take on the Detroit Tigers, who is the worst team in the league in the strikeout category. Go ahead and open this back up for you guys. We go down to the Tigers. You'll see they have a 28.5% K rate. So, the Cubbies are the 27.4 and the Tigers are the 28.5. Bottom 2 teams in the league. And then you look at against righties, and the Tigers strike out 30% of the time. That is not good. That is very bad. But that is very good for our lineups because we can go ahead and throw in some Alec Mills and be happy. And to be honest with you, I think a contrarian approach today is going to be just to play Casey Mize and Alec Mills in the same lineup, because people don't like to do that. Because, you want to play pitchers that get the win. And so oftentimes people will kind of shy away from playing 2 pitchers in the same game because obviously one of them isn't going to get the win. So people don't want to do that. But when you look at Casey Mize's price tag at 6.2K on DraftKings and then Alec Mills at 7.8, they're affordable. They're going to allow you to dig bats, and they're both taking on teams that strike out a ton. So good matchups. They have good K rates. And then I think it'll be contrarian because people don't like to play 2 pitchers facing off against each other. So just a little bit of food for thought there for you guys. And moving further along, next guy on our sheet is going to be that in Jack Flaherty. Flaherty's probably the top option on the slate as far as an established elite pitcher outside of Kenta Maeda. Those are the 2 guys left that I'm going to break down right now. And when looking at Maeda's matchup, he's got a 9.4 price tag on DraftKings. And he takes on the Cleveland Indians, which is not the best matchup, but he's Kenta Maeda. He's going to go out there and get strikeouts for you. He's going to get the job done. He's a good pitcher. It's just a question if you want to pay that price tag when we have guys like Mize and Mills that I've already gone over at cheaper price tags and better matchups. But I would say, Maeda's safer. So if you're playing cash games or something like that, go ahead and throw Maeda in. Tournaments, I'm probably going to try to go a little cheaper and play some of those high upside guys in better matchups. And then moving further along, Jack Flaherty. You know, comes in at a 9.3 price tag, and he's a 195 favorite for Vegas. Yeah, just good numbers across the board. 29.7% K rate, 34% against righties, and then a 25.5 against lefties. So we do prefer to target him against right-handed heavy lineups if at all possible. And we're looking at who he's taking on today in the Kansas City Royals. You know, it's looking like they're going to roll out only, well, 4 lefties, but their whole lineup has a pretty decent K rate. You know, the righties have a pretty decent K rate, and, you know, a guy like Jorge Soler, a ton of power, but he strikes out a ton. And then you got Maikel Franco, same type of deal. He excels against lefties, strikes out a lot. And Mondesi has a strikeout rate. You get the idea. You know, this lineup is one you can target. And Flaherty at 9.3 is definitely a very good option today. I just once again have to mention the price tag. You're going to pay up for him. So if you're going with a cheaper stack, I mean, I would probably rather play Jack Flaherty than Casey Mize or Alec Mills. It's just the price tag that you have to factor in. And then lastly, a guy that I haven't mentioned yet that I absolutely have to, don't want to forget him, is Trevor Bauer taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Trevor Bauer, you can see the ground ball and the fly ball rates are concerning, but he's always got the K stuff. He's got a 29.9% K rate, and he's got a 12.7 swinging strike rate. Against righties, it's 31.8, and against lefties, it's 27.8. So, you know, it's Trevor Bauer. He's an established name. He's the ace for Cincinnati. He's been around the league long enough now where we know his name, we know what he's capable of, and he's a guy you have to have interest in every single time he takes the mound. And then, you know, lastly, I should mention he's priced the highest on the slate, and that's for good reason. He's 10-2 on DraftKings, and that's because he's the best option. It's just you're gonna have to pay for him. So I kind of mentioned him last, but I think that's more so because of price tag. I mean, Trevor Bauer is 110% the top option on the slate. You just have to decide if you can throw that 10-2 price tag in and still get the bats you like. And with that being said, let's go ahead and start breaking down the bats we're going to want to target today. And when doing that, you know, I like to look at the SIERA, the hard contact, the fly ball rates, you know, stuff we want to target in a pitcher when we're trying to get some bats against him. We want fly balls, we want home runs, and we want hard contact. So the first guy that stands out on the list that we're going to want to target today is that in Ryan Castellani. He has to take on the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm looking at his numbers. The ground ball rate's terrible. The hard contact rate's terrible. And the SIERA is terrible. We're only dealing with a 14 innings pitch sample size, so keep that in mind. But he struggled early on. And when you look at the splits, righties, it's right across the board, very bad. And then against lefties, he's got a lot of green in there outside of the hard contact. So he's still giving up a lot of hard contact, but the slugging and everything's down. So he's really struggled against right-handed hitting. That really stands out to me. And when looking at the lineup he's taking on today in the Arizona Diamondbacks, you know, they're going to come in with 4 righties in their lineup. You got Starling Marte, Christian Walker, Nick Ahmed, and Carson Kelly. So, you know, our premier target is going to be that in Starling Marte, and then Christian Walker has a ton of power as well. A lot of interest in those guys. And then when you look at the Arizona Diamondbacks implied team total, it's at a 5.33, so that's a very solid team total. And you're obviously going to want to throw in, you know, the premier bats in the lineup to finish out your stack. So guys like David Peralta and Ketel Marte. Marte is always a guy I have a lot of interest in because he's an elite bat and he fills in the second base position. So not always the strongest position, and Marte's a stud. So you can go ahead and toss him in and feel real good about that play today. I like Ketel Marte. And then second guy on the list that we're going to want to target is that in Patrick Sandoval. Sandoval's pretty respectable in the swing, strike, the ground ball, and the fly ball categories. But if you go over to his splits, you know, there's a lot of orange going on against righties, and then against lefties, it's kind of the same ordeal. So he's respectable, but he gives up quite a bit of hard contact. And looking at the Houston Astros lineup that he's taking on today, we're definitely going to want to target some of these right-handed hitters that can mash, and even the lefties with power, you know. But they have a 5.28 implied team total. You got Springer, Altuve, Correa, Yuli Gurriel. You know, those are probably my top options from the right-hand side of the plate. And then Kyle Tucker, Michael Brantley, and Josh Reddick are more your contrarian plays. If I had to pick one guy on that list to leave off, I'd probably leave Reddick off. He hasn't really been the sharpest at the plate. I'd rather play Kyle Tucker. The kid's been showing a lot of talent this year, and you know, showing why he's a top prospect for them. And then lastly, Martin Maldonado in the 9 spot. The 9 spot's not the greatest, but he's a catcher, and we need to fill in that position, and he does crush left-handed pitching, so gotta have interest in there. And then moving further along on the slate, you know, I would say my last spot of interest when looking at the numbers is going to have to be that in the, well, I shouldn't say last spot. Let's go over 2 more spots. We have Brett Anderson taking on Cincinnati, and this is probably, you know, one of my favorite spots on the slate because I think it could be kind of sneaky. Maybe not. I think the Reds against lefties is maybe an obvious thing at this point, but Brett Anderson is really good in the walk rate, the ground ball, the fly ball, but his WOBA is hard and his slugging is really bad against right-handed hitting. And then lefties, he's very good. But he doesn't get any strikeouts. So we can target the righties in this lineup that have a ton of power against lefties. And even if they have a high strikeout rate, we can feel comfortable with that because Brett Anderson doesn't strike anyone out. So, you know, Nick Castellanos, premier play. Matt Davidson's been crushing. You know, he had that pitch hit grand slam last week. He's more of a lefty specialist, but that's great. If he's going to be in the 3-hole against the lefty, we'll take that all day at 3K on DraftKings. Then you got Eugenio Suarez, Phillip Ervin, Kirk Casale. I really like every single one of these guys in this lineup. And then Winker would probably be my least favorite, but then you factor in the fact that he's one of the hottest bats in the league, and that makes me like him even more. The one guy I probably wouldn't play, ironically, is Joey Votto in the leadoff spot, just because, you know, he has to take on the lefty, and he's 4-7, where we could just go ahead and play Matt Davidson at 3K, and I think I like that a lot more. So, yeah, that's my breakdown of Reds bats to like. And then lastly, we have to mention the St. Louis Cardinals taking on Brad Keller. Keller's got a 4.9 SIERA. He's not very great in the K and the swinging strike rate. The ground ball and the fly ball is respectable, and then against righties, you know, he's very good. It's lefties where, well, you know what? It's not even like he's bad. It's just he's a little he struggles more against lefties. And really, what it comes down to is you have Keller, and then you have this Royals bullpen. So, you know, anyone that comes in behind him, if the Cardinals can get to him a little early, they're going to be in good matchups. And then they have a 4.65 implied team total, so Vegas is kind of backing us up in the, you know, the run total as far as having interest in these Cardinals bats. So my top options are going to be, you know, Tommy Edman, Matt Carpenter, Paul Goldschmidt. I like Colton Wong at the top of the lineup in the second base spot. I had mentioned that's hard position to find people to like, and I really like Colton Wong today at that price tag. Tyler O'Neill has a ton of power. Paul DeJong has a ton of power against righties, and then Dylan Carlson's the top prospect, so can have interest in him at 2.6 in the outfield for salary relief. And that will just about do it for my breakdown of the slate. Quick little overview. You know, Alec Mills and Casey Mize in this first game, I have a lot of interest in them as pitchers. Kenta Maeda I have interest in as a pitcher. Trevor Bauer you have to have interest in, and I have a lot of interest in these Reds righties. The St. Louis Cardinals I have interest in taking on Brad Keller, pretty much up and down the lineup. You know, pick the guys with power: Tyler O'Neill, Matt Carpenter, Paul Goldschmidt in the middle, Tommy Edman, and Colton Wong. The 1 through 5 are my preferred, but then you have some good options in the 7 and the 8 hole in DeJong and Carlson. And then the Houston Astros righties, Springer, Altuve, Correa, Yuli Gurriel, and then throw in a lefty to be contrarian and Kyle Tucker because he's been showing a lot of talent with his stick. And lastly, you have Martin Maldonado in the 9 spot as a catcher. He matches left-handed pitching, and he's only 4.2. And the Diamondbacks, they were the first team I mentioned. They're probably, you know, they're probably in the best spot, honestly, out of every team, taking on Castellani in this Rockies bullpen, not the greatest, and you could play pretty much anyone in the lineup. You know, these lefties I have interest in, even though Castellani is worse against righties, still got to have interest in the lefties because he's not the greatest in the world, and you can target them as a stack. So make sure you get the righties in there, and Starling Marte and Christian Walker. They're in the best spots with the splits and the power, and then fill out your stacks with some of these lefties. And with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys my home run call of the day. I'm 4 for 8 since we started the home run call segment, 50% right. And today, my home run call of the day is no doubt going to be Eugenio Suarez of the Cincinnati Reds, taking on the lefty and Brett Anderson. Suarez crushes left-handed pitching, and I think he's in a tremendous spot to go deep here in Milwaukee. So he is my home run call of the day. Suarez is going deep. Get him in your lineups. And yeah, gotta like these Reds righties today. That's what I'll sign off with. Go ahead and check out my Patreon package over there on Patreon. Working hard at that. Getting some bullpen data in there. Getting some, team hitting splits, some hot hitter Statcast data. You can check out barrel percentage and barrels across the league. Figure out who's really hitting the ball well. And it helps support me, and I greatly appreciate that, guys. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you'll be tuning in for future videos. I appreciate that as well. It really helps me out with the YouTube algorithm. I want this channel to grow, and I appreciate you tuning in today. Get Suarez in your lineups. He's hitting a home run, and that is all from me today.